Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Let's Chat Reality. I'm Michael, and we are here today to discuss week 4 of Love Island USA season 7. Casa Amor is finally here, and we can't wait to break it all down. Now, Molly, unfortunately, is out this week. She is on vacation, but we are so lucky to have Melanie Leason back joining us for another Love Island recap. Mel, how are you?
I'm good. Thank you so much for having me again. I really enjoyed covering Love Island last time. It was 2 episodes ago, I think. And
2 weeks ago. That's a lot of episodes ago.
a lot of two podcast episodes ago.
Yes, 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 yes.
2 weeks ago. And so I'm very happy to be back to cover Casa More. It's been a pretty busy week in the villa and in Casa.
It really has. And I think that's a testament that the episode that we are starting with was the one before Casa. And when I look at it, just what happened during that episode, I'm like, that feels like a month ago to me.
I know.
And that's, I think, a sign that we had a good, busy, hectic week of Love Island.
I felt the same way when I was looking back. I was like, wow, that was within this week. I can't believe.
Yeah. Yep. Well, let's go ahead and get into it then. Episode 18, which was where we left off here. Now, because this feels like so much has happened since then, we won't go into every nitty-gritty detail of this episode, but the big thing that happened before the recoupling was that Nick tells Sierra that he wanted to keep their relationship open for the time being. This was, if you remember, the night before they had consummated their relationship. And that was, of course, a big moment for both of them. But Sierra, it seems like they're not quite on the same page. Sierra is a little bit worried when she hears this that her feelings for him may be stronger than his are for her. What did you think of this conversation and Nick wanting to continue keeping their relationship open?
Yeah, I think that Sierra was kind of starting to see the side of Nick that maybe Bella saw, and that she was not happy about that. So I think, I mean, I feel like Nick probably didn't have to have that conversation with her right after they became intimate. Like they could have maybe done that, like because they knew Casa More was going to happen at some point. Like, but I guess they worked. Maybe they did have continuing conversations about how they wanted to stay open, but I think that one kind of stung for Sierra. So I think it makes sense that she was like thinking about maybe pulling back after that because she wanted to protect herself.
Yeah, I agree. I think that Casa coming in must have been in the back of his mind. Because I think like it is a good idea, I think, to keep a relationship open but right before Casa. Because you know that you don't know who's going to come in. You don't know who you're going to, as you spend time with someone else and things are going to happen that you potentially want to think wouldn't happen as you're, happy in a relationship. And so I do think that it can be a good idea to do that. But I agree, the timing was just way off. And he may have thought, like, I don't know how much time I have. It could be tomorrow that Casa starts. And so I guess that is a possibility that he just kind of wanted to say it while he had the chance to say it. But yeah, I don't think that he necessarily the delivery maybe wasn't as strong as he would have liked it to be, and it did seem like it really hurt Sierra in this moment.
Yeah, Audrina was already there, right, at that point.
Hmm.
So
Yeah,
I think he was also maybe a little bit interested in her.
yeah,
So
yeah, for sure.
like, okay, I just need to explore everyone.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of where he
Yeah.
went with it for her. It was he because I think in his confessional, that's kind of what he was saying was like, oh, I have a good thing going with Andrea potentially that I want to explore. But I also think that everyone must have been talking about the fact that Goss is probably coming. Like it's at the same time every season. It's like the merge on Survivor. Like, okay, this is
Yeah.
coming probably on this specific week. So yeah, I think that all of that together probably made for him wanting to do it. And again, I don't think he was wrong for wanting to do this. I just think that the timing and the delivery probably was not ideal.
I think it's just like that's what happened. If you have a conversation like that, then Sierra might be closed off to him. Like
Hmm.
what might happen.
Yeah, for sure. Well, then we get to the recoupling, or I guess it wasn't technically a recoupling, a dumping, because America voted on their favorite islanders, and the three girls and three boys with the fewest votes are vulnerable and risk elimination. So we find out that the bottom three girls are Hannah, Iris, and Amaya, and the bottom three boys are Jeremiah, Pepe, and Austin. Did any of that surprise you?
Yeah, a little bit. I think Amaya being in the bottom three girls was a big surprise to me. I thought that she had a really big fan base. So maybe
Mm-hmm.
like I don't maybe I think some people do find her annoying. I personally am a big fan of Amaya Papaya, but
Love her.
I love her. Like that would be so sad if she left the villa. But I was pretty surprised she was in the bottom three. I guess I wasn't as surprised about Hannah and Iris just because they seemed a little more mellow and people liked the more like animated people. I mean that kind of
Mm-hmm.
made sense. It wasn't like I mean, I thought people really liked Hannah just because she is good at making connections. And I know I wasn't sure about those other girls, but Maya I was shocked by. Um, and then for the boys, I mean, I wasn't surprised that Austin made the bottom three and Jeremiah. I think it wasn't really a surprise there either.
Yeah, I think with the girls, with someone like Amaya, I was a little bit surprised, but I think people have really felt bad for Amaya since Casa has started. I think in particular. Like I think her popularity has probably gone up quite a bit since Casa started, and I think there's people have really felt like, oh my God, she's really been through a lot in this time that she's been here. And I think even, when this vote happened, I do think that Amaya was starting to really go up in popularity. But I also feel like, let's think about the other options because we had Alandria and Shelley, who were both OGs and beloved by
Yeah.
the audience, I think. So yeah, so I think like there was never a possibility that either of those two were going to be in the bottom. And then you have someone like Huda, who I think, sure, America really, especially at the time, didn't necessarily like Huda, but I do think that there was this campaign also by a lot of people that didn't want her to go home before Casa because they really wanted, thinking that Jeremiah was still going to be there. I think they really wanted to see both of them in Casa and then the fallout coming back. So, I think that there was probably this campaign of like, she's going to be the most entertaining person in Casa, which I don't know if that really panned out, but I do think that people really wanted to see that and didn't want her to go home at this
So a lot
moment.
of people voted for her. Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
that makes sense that you say that, but I also was like, maybe not as many people voted for her. But again, it's like, would you vote for Hannah over Huda, like, yeah, or like this person over this person? Like, it's like maybe,
Yeah.
yeah, it makes sense what happened.
Yeah, because I think like it's different if like they say have you rank them. I think that then that we maybe would have gotten a very different response because I don't think someone like Hannah and sorry.
It was like a swiping vote where it's like they kind of gave you the pictures of them, and then it's like you can swipe through, and then you can select which one you want, which person to vote. Did you remember that?
Yeah, but like what I was saying is that I think it would have been different if like they say, okay, rank 1 to 6 who your favorite to least favorite is, because then I think like someone like Hannah and Amaya, I don't think would have been in anyone's bottom.
No.
I think all of them probably would have been towards the top, but maybe not the number one. And so I think these are the people that just kind of unfortunately got screwed by the fact that they
Probably.
maybe weren't like number one favorite, but also weren't, like Huda, where it's almost like we think nobody's going to vote for her and we're scared she's going to go home. So we're going to put her number one just because, like, we don't want her to, she's too entertaining to lose right now.
Strategic. Yeah, the fans.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the media has the power.
Hmm. So then the Safe Islanders had to vote on which one of those girls and which one of those boys were going to be sent home. So the girls vote for the girls and the boys vote for the boys. I actually thought it was going to be the opposite. I thought the girls were going to vote for the boys and vice versa, because I feel like we've seen that in the past a bit. So I was a little bit surprised by the way that they had it. They had this, but we end up finding out that Hannah and Jeremiah are the two that are eliminated here. So, Mel, what were your thoughts on those decisions?
I the votes like that are so hard. Like I think it makes sense. I thought maybe Iris was going to get voted from, but that was what I was guessing when I saw the girls discussing and when I thought it was between them three, just because of she was there for the least amount of time,
Yeah.
um, and seemed like she was less close with the girls. But um, yeah, I think maybe they just didn't like how fast Hannah was moving with Pepe. I mean, they had some sort of reason. Forgot what they said. And then Jeremiah going home definitely smells like Ace. I feel like he never liked him. That that one makes a lot of sense. Yeah,
Yeah, I was surprised by Hannah because I agree with you. I thought it was going to be Iris. I just thought like Hannah's closer to the girls than Iris is.
yeah,
And simple as that. Hannah and Amaya are closer to the girls. Like Hannah and Amaya came in together and very early on. I think it was day 5, and then Iris came in, I believe, day 9.
yeah,
So that's like in Love Island time. That doesn't sound like a lot, but in Love Island time when it was, I think, like day 16 or something at the time, like that is quite a bit of difference. Like Iris has been there a week and Hannah and Amaya have been there 11 days, like almost 2 weeks. Like that's quite a bit of time difference there. So I really did think that it was going to be an easy decision to just, sadly cut Iris. Not that there was any bad blood there between any of them, but just like, sorry, we're closer to the other two. But I do, yeah. It seemed like the reasoning for Hannah was that they felt like Hannah and Pepe had like this instant connection and hadn't had been able. She hadn't explored as much as the other two had, and so they wanted, Sierra, Iris, and Amaya to have the time to find those a strong connection like Hannah did. So I mean, I get it. It's a
yeah.
little
Just that people
flimsy.
who have a strong connection. I mean, yeah, it's like a, but I guess it is a strategy if you want to win the dating show and you want to be in the strongest couple.
Hmm.
To go home someone in a strong couple. It's just like because it's so friendship based in the show, it's like kind of surprising to send someone home who's in it because they care.
Yeah. And I think that makes it hard because it's like, if that's going to be your reasoning for every vote, then you're going to have this happen where you get to Casa and there's no strong connections anymore. And so then it's like, okay, what
Yeah,
are we testing here? Because everyone in a strong connection has gone home because they're in a strong connection.
yeah.
So,
What happened in Casa? Everyone was open this year.
yeah.
It was like
Yeah, I mean, I think that
drama. I feel like then like when previous times when there's closed off couples that like may do other things in Casa. I mean that's a big opportunity for drama. But they this year it was a little more tame just because there was no closed couples.
yeah, for sure. And they changed the format of it, I think,
Yeah.
potentially because of that. But yeah, I mean, going into Jeremiah a little bit. What's right?
They definitely changed the format because it was all like that. The way they were like, you have to recouple. You can't just like ignore these new people if you don't have any connection. Like,
Yeah, I think it was a combination of that, and I think also kind of what happened last season, where the Casa girls kind of all got villainized and didn't really have a real chance to find anything,
yeah,
because last year, unlike this year, there were a lot of strong couples going into it. And so it was kind of like anytime any of them would make a move on any of those guys that were in those couples, the audience and the OG girls just pounced on them, and it was like it was real fun to watch. But it was, I mean, it kind of felt, when you think about it, you really kind of do feel bad for those Casa girls who were just doing their job, what they were cast to do.
I mean that happens with any bombshell though in the show. If they're going for somebody that's and then someone else is in a connection, then person gets hurt. I mean that's just part. It's just like a bombshell on steroids.
Yeah, and I think it's the worst time to be a bombshell because before Casa, it's like, okay, these connections are new enough that like there's a chance like most of them aren't going to be closed off at that point. And then after Casa, I just feel like the bombshells don't even really try. It's like there's no point
Well,
in trying.
someone who like really doesn't have connection and they're like hoping there's a bombshell that comes in. Like sometimes maybe.
Yeah, exactly. But most of the ones by that point after Casa, it's like the closed off couples, like neither of them are going to even like try anything because their partner's right there also. It's a lot easier in Casa to, potentially do something when they're not right in front of you. But well, let's get into Casa then. We can just go ahead and transition there. So, the Islanders are told that they will be playing a kissing game with the boys wearing blindfolds and noise canceling headphones so they can rate who is the best kisser. Then Ariana secretly walks in and tells the girls that they will be going to Casa Amor. So they leave and send in 5 new girls: Grayson, Clark, Vanna, Coco, and Jaden. So, what were your thoughts immediately on the new girls? Was there anyone that kind of stuck out to you? Thinking, "Ooh, I think she's gonna couple up with this one," or what were your thoughts?
Oh, honestly, I didn't really. When I saw the girls, I wasn't like, oh, at one guy's gonna go for one girl. Did you have any immediate thought like that?
I kind of thought that I think well Coco I think I really thought like oh she I felt like Ace was gonna go for Coco. I just feel like that was like his type. I felt like she and Shelly have a lot of similarities and so I thought ooh that's gonna be a little dangerous for Shelly. Like I started to a little bit worry for her, but that was
Listen,
kind of the only
I
one.
don't know. I keep hearing things about how they were already together before the show.
Okay, those rumors I'm glad you brought this up.
Yeah, so I'm like, of course he's always going to choose her because they're already dating.
Okay. No, they admitted before the show that they met at a bar in New York and they
They
had
later said it was like a birthday party. The story's been changing.
yeah, I don't honestly remember the exact specific details of how they both ended up at that bar, but my understanding is look they talked, they followed each other on social media, they maybe like had a couple DM conversations back and forth, but like they both basically decided like hey we don't even live in the same state, this isn't going to work out, it's really not worth pursuing, and then they both end up on Love Island and it's like okay well fate is telling us that we should maybe try this again. So that's really to my understanding the extent
There's
of it. I know there's a lot of rumors that like they have a secret baby and like they've been
apparently
married.
made a video for her on Valentine's Day. Like I've
Oh, I
heard
didn't
some
even hear
weird
that, but
stuff. Yeah.
I truly don't believe like her family has totally debunked all the rumors. So like I truly think that this is just people making things up and for attention and
They're a good couple, I guess.
yeah, no, I think that they are. Like I think absolutely it feels like they have been a couple like the strength of their couple right now feels to me like a couple that was together from day one of this
Yeah,
show. And it's kind of crazy to think about the fact that they didn't actually couple up until very, very recently.
I know.
So I think that, yeah, like I'm not, I mean, to, jump forward a bit, but like I am not surprised that they decided to stay together. And I truly think that if they can survive this week, like I don't see them breaking up before the end.
I don't think so either.
But then Ariana explains how Casa Amor is going to be structured this year, which we talked a little bit about, but they will all be in a new couple for the entire week, and everyone will be returning to the villa. So normally only the people who get picked to, to pair up come back to the villa. This year, everyone's coming back, and then they make the decisions. So the new girls will get to pick who they want to couple up with by standing next to that boy. If more than one girl chooses a boy, then the boy will decide who he wants. In the end, one boy will be left single and vulnerable to be sent home at the next recoupling the following night. So, what were your thoughts on this new format? We talked a little bit about it, but compared to, what you saw last year of Casa Amor, what were your thoughts?
I just think they felt like they needed to do something more structured in terms of couples. Just, I mean, because so many people were sleeping like out in soul ties, like in the villa and like other places. I think they wanted people to really try to get to know the Casa people and give them a chance. And especially because everyone was open, I think it was a good opportunity.
Yeah.
Um, Bringing them all back to the villa, I didn't really care either way about that. I mean, I think it's a little bit. I kind of prefer if they didn't do that because I feel like it caused some more. Like it's more just like I feel like there's more of a shock factor. There's like, is there are they going to come back with someone? Are they not? You know, it's kind of like I like that anticipation. So
Hmm.
that's I personally liked that would they if they choose then and there. But I mean, it wasn't bad.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think the one, like, we did get a little bit of that just with, Nick and Alandria coming back. Like, that was like kind of the one, like, shock factor when someone walked in where it was like,
Uh,
oh, whoa, I didn't expect them to walk in.
shock factor, like that's always fun.
Yeah, 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 yeah. So I think, like, I agree with you. That's the one part that I did kind of miss from the past, was that. But For the most part, I really liked this because I think that, I mean, like I was kind of saying before, I think last season in particular, the girl bombshells in particular, just really didn't have a chance. Like I think the guys kind of tried to, I mean, everyone remembers Aaron and all of that mess. But like there was just no chance that that was ever actually going to turn into anything because of when they went back and Kaylor just reamed into him, and like there was just no shot that anyone would even want to like try to put themselves in that situation like after watching that. So I think that this was necessary to kind of force them to try to give it an effort to give the bombshells some autonomy to like make their own choices of who they want to pursue. And I think that it did help. Also, I think it just helped to get to know the bombshells a little bit better. Like I feel like last season there were a lot of them that like I don't think I could have told you their names.
Did Casa have less episodes this year, or is it the same always?
It felt like it.
It
But I
felt.
also don't know because I feel like there was just so much happening with Casa that like
Um,
I don't know if it just felt shorter because of that or whether it actually was shorter.
I don't know.
But yeah, no, overall I liked it. I think that and we'll kind of get into the little twist of somebody going home after 24 hours. But I didn't love that part of it. And I know that look like we got some good good content out of it, but I think that that was a little bit silly. I don't know. I just thought that it was a little bit unnecessary pressure for people to potentially only pursue like really aggressively pursue somebody because they didn't want to go home versus they were actually into them.
Yeah, I agree.
So the new Villa couples are Pepe and Grayson, Ace and Vanna, Austin and Jaden, Nick Taylor and Coco, Nick and Clark. Now Clark originally picked Taylor, but then he ultimately went with Coco. So then Clark decided on Nick, who was single at that point, and then TJ at that point was left single. Now TJ, I loved this moment because TJ was very critical of the kisses, and he was rating, I don't think he rated any of them above like a 7, and he was just kind of like very down on all of them. And then Ariana made a comment that was like, oh well, TJ, do you regret being so critical about the kisses? And he said, I forgot exactly what he said, and she was like, well, I'm glad that they were all so critical towards you. So I think it was just a little moment that made me happy.
I don't blame him for being. I think he was being more honest than everyone else. I mean, if he wants to have more of an emotional connection before having a good, and he won't find a kiss good until he has had a conversation with somebody, then I don't like think it's a big deal. But yeah, for the sake of TV and for the challenge, you have to be a little nicer.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think yeah, I think he was honest, and I do think that's, not a bad thing. I think that I don't know, the way that he was doing it though just makes me feel like he was just I don't know. I think that he could have gone about it a little bit softer, like a little bit where it's like not hurting their feelings. I don't know. I didn't love the way that he kind of went about it, but I do agree that it's good to be honest. Not knocking him for that.
He could be honest to himself. He doesn't be honest to America.
Yes, exactly. Or like try to find something nice to say about it. Like not a dishonest like that's the 10, that's the best kiss I've ever had, but like maybe find something that you liked about it
Yeah,
versus
that
something you
would be
didn't like. Yeah. So then we do the same thing here basically with the girls. So the 6 new boys arrive at Casa Amor with the OG girls. They are Elan, Brian, Zach C, Zach K, JD, and Chris. Any first impressions of the new boys?
I mean, I immediately thought Ilan looked like Nick. Actually, funny enough,
Mm.
immediately saw that. So I thought it was really funny that Olandria said that later when she went back to the villa.
It
I
was
was,
describing, yeah.
I was like, yeah, he looks like you.
See, that's funny. I didn't. I did
Really?
not think that. I didn't
I
clock it.
screwed it to
No.
Nick and I was like, Walmart Nick.
Ooh,
But I
interesting.
think that was
Timu Nick.
personality. I think he has a great personality, Elan. He seems really nice, but like
Yeah.
he's smart. But I, yeah, the first thing I said when I saw it was like, oh my god, that's just like a dupe of Nick.
Interesting, interesting. Well, Ariana explains to them how Casa Amor will work this season, and then they play a game where the girls pop a balloon with a question inside and kiss the boy who fits the answer. So, I don't know, these games silly. There's not really much to talk about with that one. But then we get the new Casa couples after that. So we have Huda and JD, Sierra and Elan, Shelly and Chris, Iris and Zach, Andrina and Brian, Alandria and Zach K. Zach originally picked Shelly, but she chose Chris. So then Zach chose Alandria after that. And Amaya Papaya is left single.
She
Very
did
sad.
not need that. She didn't need to be left single again,
No.
like too many times.
Yeah, and this was, I feel like this was the moment where a lot of people really started to turn around on Amaya. And like, I mean, sure, I think even before that, like, of course, with everything that she,
With Ace, with the babe thing. After that, I was sold.
but
I
I
was
do think that even at that point, a lot of people, like, I was pro Amaya with that, but I do think there were a lot of people who were annoyed with Amaya for that.
I know, but okay, I was at a bar watching Love Island. There was this bar in New York that was advertising they play it on like a couple days a week.
Mm-hmm.
And I was talking to the bartender and she was like, yeah, like someone I know went to high school with Amaya and
Mm.
has Amaya does not have that accent. She's like putting on this accent for the show.
What?
Yeah, I know.
Do you think it's possible that, like, I feel like people can pick
Could have
up
grown into
accents a
that.
bit later?
She could have picked it up, but I thought that was crazy and I don't know what to think now when I hear her talk, but I love her anyway. I think she's like just the perfect amount of sassy. I think she's
Hmm.
awesome. I just like now I'm like, does she not have this accent or does she have this act? Like I
Is
need to
that like Hilaria Baldwin type thing, like where
like
it's
I
like a
don't
fake
know.
accent?
Yeah, it's like, is it? Like I don't know what it is, but yeah, I heard that. So
Interesting, interesting. No, I love Amaya
like
Papaya, and
fake because people think it's annoying.
yeah, yeah, I don't know. That would be strange. But no, yeah, I think like this was, I feel like the point where I think a lot of people who even didn't like Amaya before this were like, "Oh, this is sad. Like this is really sad for to be left single again and just, after everything that she's gone through here." So, I was worried for her in this moment. I was like, "Oh, girl, you got 24 hours. Figure
Especially
something out."
like
And that's what I think is the
people
problem.
they watched this show. They know what's happened to Amaya. Like, couldn't they?
Right.
Like, they know that, right? How I don't know how much they. Do you think they watched the whole thing?
I don't know. And it doesn't to me sound like they are fully caught up because I feel like when like, the girls are catching the new guys up, like, on kind of, it seems like recently what happened, it seemed like they were kind of surprised to hear certain things or like
Okay.
didn't maybe know everything that happened. So my guess would be like they stopped watching whenever they went into sequester for the show. Like they weren't watching more after that. So I guess would be like they're probably like, I don't know, maybe 3 or 4 episodes behind, something like that.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But this was kind of, yeah, like this to me was where I really was kind of upset by the 24-hour deadline to find something because it just felt like Amaya was so like desperately trying to find something and only had one day to do it, and so she was just kind of like going up to any given guy and like just kind of being so overly desperate and aggressive almost. And I was like, well, I fully understand why you're doing this, but it's like it doesn't feel genuine to me because it's like that you're going home if you don't do this.
I mean, it's normal behavior. Hoda did it too. After a couple days later. I mean,
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah. Well, let's get into episode 20 then. So we kind of start to get to know all of the new couples and see them get to know each other. Um, I feel like just kind of a few highlights here are Jaden kind of having connections with both Austin and Nick, Amaya talking with both, like I said, Zach and JD, and kind of having connections with both of them, and then of course Taylor forming a connection with Clark. Were there any other conversations, any other couples that stood out to you, or anything you want to say on any of those?
Well, we can go through. So Jaden,
Yeah.
I think Jaden and Austin hit it off so well. I was so happy for Austin that he had, had someone that was excited about him, and I was really rooting for that couple to prevail. And so I'm very happy about that. I was confused about if Nick and her were actually into each other, or if Nick also just was like wanting to form a connection in Casa. That I was a little suspicious of, both of
Mm-hmm.
suspicious of Nick, so if he was actually interested in Jaden or not. I mean, he says that she caught his eye, but like I can't. I'm not sure. I'm not sure
Yeah.
about that connection.
Yeah.
Something felt off about that connection. I don't know which side of it, but I felt like that.
I agree with that. I think at first I kind of thought like, okay, maybe there's something here, but I think as time went on, yeah, like I didn't feel like there was any real potential there,
Yeah.
basically, is kind of how I was thinking. I felt like Jaden and Austin just had a stronger just chemistry with each other. And like they even both had lip tattoos.
I know that was crazy. And they still have them, but they're not permanent. They don't. I don't think they last like.
Oh, they're
I think
not.
I've heard. I don't. They only last like a year or two.
I have no idea.
They're not permanent the same way that
I
like.
have not looked into
I don't know.
it.
I've heard that. I'm not. No, I don't have. I'm not that into the tattoo thing either. I don't know. Also, I never saw Amaya talk with JD. Like, did I miss something? Like, she talked to him like right before Casa ended, but I didn't see her talk to him. Like, I didn't realize that she had a connection with him. Also, I kind of thought it was just Zach.
No, she was, yeah, I mean, they talked. Like, I don't feel like there was anything super genuine there. Like, I don't think that he was really into her. I think it was just kind of a thing of like, she felt like there was an opportunity for him to potentially be the one to keep her in the villa, basically. And so, like, she felt like she kind of had to go for it. But I think that it was pretty clear that her stronger connection was with Zach K, for sure.
Yeah, I really didn't even realize she until like right before the recoupling that she even was talking to JD.
Yeah.
It was I was just thought she was into Zach K, kind of.
Yeah, and we didn't see a lot of that
Yeah.
conversation. But definitely I think there was a kind of we saw some confessionals of Amaya where she was like, I don't know which way to go. Like I have two guys now. Like I went
I
from
know,
0 to
but
2.
I wasn't sold on. I thought she just liked Zach K. Um,
Yeah.
and then Hannah
Uh
also kind of came out of left field there with because she seemed like she was attracted to JD at first, but then they did not get along.
no.
No,
That last conversation between the two of them where he was saying something like that, oh, you like to be aggressive, I can tell. It's like that's a good way to get her to like you.
he was very understanding of her being a mother. He seemed really supportive at first. I thought that they were going to have a good connection in the beginning, but then it just kind of they found out they weren't compatible after getting to
Yeah.
know each other for a couple days. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for sure. And then Taylor and Clark. What were your thoughts when you first kind of saw their connection? Did you feel like that was genuine on both of their parts?
I definitely felt like it was genuine on Taylor's part. He looked like he was into her very romantically, which I wasn't sure if I saw that as much as early on with Nicolandria. So I thought that was really nice. On her side, I mean, she did stand next to him first, and there were other guys that had no one next to them. So I think that says something about initial attraction. She
Hmm.
does seem like she's a little hard to read, so I can't like. She seems like she's into him, but like yeah, I mean, I feel like I haven't heard that much from her. Like I haven't they don't have that many confessionals with her. Like we just need to keep getting to know her. He does seem into her. I don't like it's hard to see that knowing that Landria picked him over Jalen, like
Yeah.
when she had maybe a stronger romantic connection, she was like, well, this connection could go farther maybe over time. She really wanted
Hmm.
to focus on that. So that it was kind of hard to see him hit it off with someone else. But I mean, Yeah, it's complicated.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think that Taylor, you can just tell how different he is with Clark, and I do think that he just kind of seems happier when he is with Clark, and I think that he feels a little more like walking on eggshells a bit when he is with Elandria, a little bit like more stressed out. I don't know, like he's like trying to make it work versus like I think it seems to be easier with Clark. And I do think that he just it feels like almost like a different person. And I think that you see the kind of the same thing that with like honestly, when Elandra was with Nick for a short period of time, I just think she seemed like she was smiling more, she was happier, she was laughing, and like it felt like she was okay with
I
going a
think she
little
was
bit
like that with
faster.
Jalen too.
Yeah, yeah, I think so. And I think like at the time I didn't view it as that. I think I viewed it at the time when she was with Jalen like that there was she was maybe just a little bit more carefree just because things weren't as serious. And
Yes.
so I think like I kind of felt like because it seemed like she was just further along with Taylor at that time, and so I was like, I just think it's probably better for her to go with Taylor because they have a longer history and more potential for things to go further. But now looking back, yeah, I think she probably was just a little bit like more at ease with Jalen, and I think with Taylor, I just think for both of them, it was always a friendship, and I don't know that it ever really was meant to go further than that. And I think they're both trying to make something work that wasn't ever going to actually work out.
I know, but the whole thing, Ace was like trying to tell Taylor, like, you got to do things, you got to plan dates, you got to win her over Jalen
Mm-hmm.
by putting in this effort. So you basically, so you stay in the game, so you stay in the show,
Yeah.
and he did it, and he won her over, and then it didn't go the other way around. But I think maybe maybe it would have been nice if he had a talk with her, saying if they like really addressed it, that if he addressed that with her, that he was like, I'm really. It was really hard when she was kind of asking for reassurance, and he could have very easily been like, I'm just really feeling more romantic with Clark. He didn't cut it off, which it was kind of hard to watch. Do you agree?
Yeah. And I think that's the problem that a lot of these guys have on these shows is that they refuse to cut anything off because they think, what if I'm going to change my mind? What if something happens and I want to make sure I have someone on the back burner so that if my main connection that I'm going for, goes sideways, then I have someone that I can fall back on. And the problem with that, of course, is that you're dealing with real people's feelings. And you don't think about the fact that, well, eventually I'm going to have to cut that off, or eventually, like, even if I don't cut it off, the situation is I'm going to have to make a choice at some point. And I think they just kind of think, well, that's a future problem. Like, I'll deal with that when it comes.
I mean, Shelly
And
did the same thing with Ace and Austin. She wasn't
she
cutting things
did.
off. She was not cutting things off with Austin, even though she was not like that was a little rude. She could have cut things off with Austin way earlier.
Yeah, and I think the one thing that I will give Shelley is that I do think that she was honest with Austin in terms of she wasn't ever hiding her relationship with Ace. Like I do think that she could have cut it off. 100% she should have cut it off. She should have just said like, "Look, I want to explore things with Ace." By Austin. She should have done that. But I do think that he also has a little bit of autonomy in that where like he was in front of his eyes watching Shelly and Ace and he still
So
said, "Well, I want to try to make
he
things
was
work with Shelly."
very into her.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
So I do think though that you're right that Shelley absolutely kind of in a lot of ways did the same thing.
she did.
But for the recouplings, then that night, the single islander Amaya with in the casa and TJ in the villa stand in front of the fire pit, and if anyone feels a stronger connection to them than the person that they are currently coupled up with, they can stand up. That leaves their original partner single and vulnerable. So this process continues over and over until nobody stands up, and then at that point, the whoever is left single will be sent home. So in the casa, Zach's K stands up to couple up with Amaya, leaving Landria single. None of the boys stand up for her, so then she is eliminated. So, Mel, did that surprise you at all, that result?
No, I wasn't
Yeah.
surprised. I mean, I know that they put the power in the hands of the Casa people, and that was who they felt the connection with. That's just like what was going to happen.
Yep. I agree. I was really hoping it wouldn't happen. Well, no, I'm not hoping it wouldn't because I think I would have been sad no matter what happened.
What do you
If
think the
Maya went
witches
home.
were were like if they were planning something with Nick and Olandria? They kind of like were doing it this way. I felt like there must have been. I mean, I guess they could have had just any two single people from the villa go on a date and then go back to the villa. I think they could have done that with anyone who was eliminated.
Mhm.
Because I mean, it was a pretty big chance that it would have been a fan favorite being sent home if it wasn't Nick or Olandria. It could have been who.
Right.
So
Yeah, because I think like they couldn't have 100% rigged this at all because I
no,
do think we saw like in the just the wording of the text that they were getting. This wasn't like a last minute like, oh my God, Nick and Landry just went home. We have to find a way to save them. Because
no,
like we saw in the when you go back and look at the wording of the text, like it is very specific where it's like the person will leave Casa Amor immediately, and the person will leave the villa, whereas normally they say we'll leave the island immediately. So it was like little things like that, like where this was in the plans from the
yeah,
beginning.
obvious. I mean, they had the
Yeah.
whole date set up.
Right. Right. So yeah, so this I was very sad to see Landra go here, but like you said, not super surprised based on all the connections and everything that had happened. Then in the villa though, this one I was surprised by, I will say. I did not see this one coming. So Vanna stood up to couple up with TJ. Not surprised by that. Then that left Ace single. Coco stands for him, coupling them up. Taylor at that point is single. And then Clark stands up to couple up with Taylor. And now Nick is left single and vulnerable. Nobody stands up for Nick, so he is eliminated. And look, none of these, I guess, I was super surprised by necessarily, but I just didn't calculate this in my head that this was how it was likely to happen. So then, Nick was just kind of left here at the end. And I think it seemed like maybe people expected what's her name who's with Jaden to stand up for Nick. So I think like Ace kind of it seemed like he had said like, well, I just figured that she was going to stand up for Nick, and then I guess in that case Austin would have gone home, right? So yeah, I think that it seemed like a lot of people were surprised by that, but
I
then
was even in Austin, so I was happy. I mean,
yeah, and
I
yeah.
didn't want to see Nick leave though because he's so entertaining. So is Elantria. It would have been if they were actually leaving. I would have been. I don't know what we couldn't have watched the show anymore.
I think a lot of people felt that way. Yeah, I think a lot of people I was seeing on social media before, like live tweeting as they were watching, and it was like before they got to the very end, they were like, "Well, this is the end of my watching Love Island this season." Like, but then of course we do see at the very end of the episode that as Nick is leaving the villa, he sees a car to pick him up, and Alandria opens the door, tells him get inside, and that ends the episode. When you saw that, what did you think was going to happen?
I texted you. I was like, I gasped. I was shocked. I did not know
Yeah.
what was going to happen. I I actually, because I was with another friend, so I was rewatching episode one with them to show them the show. So
Hmm.
I was actually picking up on Nick like really being into Olandria. I was
Interesting.
watching. So I was like, oh my gosh, this is like I was kind of hoping that Nick would confess like that he was into Olandria like in the next episode, and then he did. So that was I was kind of like I kind of knew. I was like Nick always kind of had a thing for her. So we'll see if they let that happen.
Yeah, I so my thought, and I had actually texted one of my friends that before, like as the episode was starting, and I was like, wouldn't it be kind of interesting if the two people who go home tonight like actually just switch villas and don't actually go home? I was like, that would be kind of an interesting twist. And then get to the end of the episode and see this, and I'm like, well, is that about to happen? Am I a psychic?
You are
But
psychic. I think you're a psychic, but
I wish that would make my life a whole lot easier. But I No, I thought, well, it's weird because they're going in the same car. So like that doesn't seem like I feel like if they were gonna do that, they would have like showed us two cars passing in the night or something like that. Like they wouldn't have showed them be getting in the same car. Like it felt like okay, they're going somewhere together. So
Yeah.
then I thought maybe they're gonna hold them like in a hotel until Casa is over. Everyone gets back to the villa, and then maybe like a day or two passes where they're assuming that they're gone for good, and then they both come back as like they're the post Casa bombshells. Because usually those people, like usually it's like one person who was on a previous season,
Yeah.
or some a familiar face of some sort. And so I thought, oh, that would be an interesting twist to just have it be the two of them instead of someone from like a past season, because it does give them like usually I feel bad for those people. Anyone that comes in post Casa doesn't really have a shot to find a real relationship from this. So I felt like, oh, that's an interesting way to potentially do that, where the two bombshells coming in actually have a potential to really shake things up because they're two people who already have connections here.
Yeah. That
So that
I
was
didn't
my
know
guess.
how they were gonna reintroduce them either. I was like not sure.
Yeah. Well, we find out very quickly the next episode. So they go on a date together and they chat. Nick expresses that he's been wanting to get to know Alandria better for a while and to see if there's maybe any potential. She agrees, but she's also, I think, kind of surprised to hear that because she's like, well, I kind of assumed that maybe you had a thing for me or like thought I was, pretty or whatever, but. You never expressed that, so it just kind of never turned into anything. But they are given the option to couple up together and go back to the villa or go home. Now, this isn't really much of an option. Of course, they're going to couple up together, and they do. But what were your thoughts on all of this? I mean, you kind of said that you saw and you noticed going back that there was some connection there. But when they were expressing it in this moment, were you hoping that this was going to potentially be a thing?
Yeah, I was really excited. I think they would be a good couple. I think that yeah, I think this is what we needed to see. This being explored a little
For sure. Give me the wedding date,
bit.
give me shirts. Like, I was all in on hashtag Nicolandria. I
I
wanted
think
to see it. Yeah,
I think
go ahead.
Olandria was just like a little uncomfortable with it at first, or that's a little bit just through even throughout the episode, just because she was really in her head so aware of the friendship bonds in the show, which I feel like they don't always. This season, they're very conscientious of that. They're like, she's like, well, Nick is, Taylor's one of his best friends. So that makes me uncomfortable that Nick's talking to me this way. And, Sierra is my girl. So I'm not sure how comfortable, like, I mean, it felt like she was like feeling a little bit uncomfortable, even so I was like, not sure if she was letting herself go enough.
Yeah. And yeah, like, when you really, really think about it, it's like, okay, like, I feel really bad for Sierra here. I feel kind of at this point bad for Taylor a little
Yeah.
bit. Like, there are a lot of factors to consider that make this difficult to actually work as a couple when it's two OGs at this late in the game. Like, there are going to be hurt feelings of friendships and past relationships. So, not thinking about that, I was fully all in on this. But then when you really sit and think about it, it's like, this is a little bit more complicated to make it work than you might originally think of just being excited for two people who you've watched, have little connections here and there that, people have been kind of talking about, like, that they want this to happen. And then you're just excited because it's actually happening. It's like fan fiction come to
I was
life.
very excited about it. It's just that Olandria was bringing all this up, and I was like, I was like, oh no.
Yeah, yeah, it was hard. I did think about, oh God, Sierra, and I still think, I mean,
Still
I'm
think
excited to see this episode tonight because, yeah, like Sierra is going to be a little hurt when she finds out everything that happened here. But we're getting ahead of ourselves. So Nick and Alandria return to the villa in the middle of the night. Which was kind of crazy, like that they just like came in and like while everybody's sleeping. I'm like, how did nobody wake up when two people?
They must have woken up. Like, how could they not have woken up?
I don't know. I don't know. But Taylor, the next morning surprise everyone, and everyone goes and hugs them. But now, of course, you have Taylor, Clark, and Elandria all in the same villa together. So Taylor is a bit torn now that Elandria is right there next to him again. He doesn't sure isn't sure whether to continue exploring his connection with Clark or go back to Elandria. He kind of, Elandria has a conversation with him where she says, "Look, the ball's in your court, and whatever you want." And what did you think in that moment? Do you think that he should have made a decision to explore one or the other, or continue talking to both?
I don't think she should have said the ball's in your court. I think she would have should have waited for him to say, "I missed you, and I'm glad you're here, and I'm exploring another connection, but you're the one for me." Like that would have been a little bit easier. Like she shouldn't have had to say anything. Like the
Mm-hmm.
fact that she felt like she had to say like the ball's in your court, like you need to decide. Is I don't think that's not looking so good for their relationship. It seems, and it does seem like he's really into Clark. So I think he could have been a little more. I think he like said that he was exploring it, but yeah, we talked about this how like he could have been a little more direct.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't think that he's wrong for exploring both connections because I think he's in a unique position where both of his connections, most people when they're in Casa, their other connection is back in the other villa and they can kind of fully focus on this new connection. And he was doing that. And he wasn't doing anything wrong by, of course, exploring anything with Clark. And so I think that it's only fair for him to be able to continue exploring that for the time while he's in Casa or in the villa, technically.
Yeah,
But I agree that I think that I'm sorry, Elandria should not have needed. I think the feel the thought that she needs to say that, I
yeah,
think should be a little bit of a sign for her that okay, maybe I'm not confident enough in this relationship that I shouldn't need to say that. My husband, my future husband is going to come back to me. Like, they have this opportunity and then without me having to say anything will decide on his own accord that he wants to explore things with me instead of somebody else.
yeah. But
So I think that should be a sign for
the
her.
ball is in his court. She shouldn't need to tell him that.
Yeah, for sure. Well, then we get more Nicolandria content here because Nick tells Alandria that he has always had a crush on her. They are in soul ties, and he's like, I've been a secret admirer almost of you, and they really, really start to have these conversations where it's like, maybe we should test this out, and they end up sharing a kiss here, and this ends the episode. This ends my life here. Like I am fully in on Nicolandria at this point, and for the next 24 hours after this, I am just I am their biggest supporter here, and very sad when just 24 hours later, my hopes and dreams are crushed. Because starting episode 22 here, the next day they decide they are better off as friends and will go back to pursuing relationships with their original partners. Said it felt a little bit weird. They were thinking of their other partners kind of right after they kissed, and it just didn't feel right. So, Mel, were you surprised by this, upset by this? What were your feelings?
Yeah, I was very upset by this. I also think that like I don't know who decided this. I think one person said that they should just be friends, and the other person like kind of went with it. You know,
Yeah, which one was it that started that? I don't know. I don't off the top of my head remember
it's
which one
like
started this.
maybe one of them was actually maybe more about it.
Yeah, I weirdly feel like it was Nick that started this conversation. And I could
Oh,
be wrong about that. But
yeah,
I think that because I think Alandrius, I feel like I just remember her saying something like, "Oh, I totally agree. Like I'm glad you said that because I felt the same way." Like I feel like I just have this
you
memory
felt
in
the
my head of
same way or not? Like, yeah, it's
yeah, and like when they said this, and I really thought about it, like I said, like it does like I think that we all got a little bit ahead of ourselves a little bit, like, too, like, I think we all just wanted this so much to happen that we were convincing ourselves that, like, that there was an actual possibility here. And I do think that when I really think about it, like I was saying, I think there's just too many factors right now to go all in on this. I
I don't
do kind of,
know, like how strong it was Nick and Sierra's connection though. Like when we saw it before Casa, all we knew is that he wanted to keep it open and she was upset. So like,
mhm.
it's not that crazy to be like maybe him and Sierra really don't have the best connection in the world.
Yeah, they did end on a good note. Like they had another conversation that I don't think we brought up earlier the next day where they kind of cleared things up and she said, like, okay, it didn't, I'm glad that you cleared this up. Like I agree. I think that I didn't fully understand what you were trying to say before. So like I do think that they came into Casa on a good note. Um and I think seeing Sierra back in Casa, like getting all emotional over the thought of, Nick potentially finding another connection. Like, I think that that's a sign that, like, she really does want that to work out with Nick. And I think Nick here now, of course, like saying things didn't quite feel right with the kiss with Alandria. And I think that's a sign for him that he also really wants to go back to Sierra. So I do feel like now, I think post Casa, I feel a lot better about Nick and Sierra's relationship being really strong than I did before Casa.
100%. It's way stronger now. I feel like it's much more solid.
Yeah. Well, as sad as it was that Nicolandria is no more now, we do get everyone coming back to the villa, and the OG girls and new boys learn that Nick and Alandria did not go home. They arrive and they're holding hands, which I made me happy. Like maybe there's a chance here that eventually this could
Oh,
work out. No.
I want them.
I know. But everyone's thrilled to see them. Nick and Sierra share a kiss, and I felt bad for Sierra because they really played a trick on her, making her think that Nick had gone home, and she's crying, and then. All the OG boys are playing along, looking sad, and then they arrive there. So that was a fun moment to see everybody come back together.
Yeah, that was great.
And then we get to the recoupling. So the way that this is working is that everyone writes down the name of the islander that they want to couple up with. But to recouple with them, they must also have your name written on their board. So if you do not have a match, you are single and vulnerable. So the couples that we end up with here, and we can kind of go through them each, is Austin and Jaden is the first. So no surprise there for me, at least. What do you think?
No, no surprise.
Amaya and Zach K. Now, JD also had Amaya's name down, but she ended up picking Zach, so he is now single. Any surprise with Amaya picking Zach? No, I
No
don't think so. Yeah. Pepe and Grayson. No surprise there.
surprise.
Andreana and Brian. They really, like, very quickly went through that one, it seemed like. We didn't get any time with them.
They never get any screen time. I don't
I feel like I don't know anything about either of them.
know.
Like I don't know what that is, but yeah, they're really really side characters here for right now at least. But
Mhm.
they are coupled up. Then we get TJ and Iris. Now this one was complicated because there were a lot of factors that went into them picking each other. So Vanna also had TJ's name written down, so she is single. Zach C also had Iris's name written down, so he is now also single and vulnerable. So in this coupling happening, we also got two singles. So it didn't seem like there was necessarily a lot of drama there, but that kind of almost feels like a relationship, a love square,
Yeah.
if you will. But yeah, so they are the first, I believe, of the OG couples. Both neither of them ended up with their Casa picks, and they went back to each other. So that was nice to see.
Yeah. It was nice to see.
Then we have Ace and Shelly, of course. Coco also had Ace's name written down though, so she is single. I loved how Coco and Shelly were like matching
I know.
here, by the way.
Olandria was also kind of wearing a similar outfit too. They were all in like green
Yeah.
and yellow.
Yeah, that's interesting. But yeah, so Ace and Shelley, whether they were in a relationship before Love Island or not, they are now in a relationship together still after Casa. Then we have Huda and Chris, who were not originally paired up in Casa, but Huda, they both ended up with each other and not with who they originally coupled up with. So, um, yeah, I don't know. I feel like I don't know a ton about their connection with each other, of whether this is going to be a strong couple that stays together.
I think didn't Huda like kind of ask Shelly to not pick Chris in the like vanity room? She kind of was like, "Can you not?" I feel like did you
I
capture that?
don't remember that.
She kind of said something to her about like, "Yeah, hey, I kind of talking to Chris. I like him. Like, I want to choose her." So she said something around. She kind of gave Shelly kind of like maybe like a if you're not sure, go with Ace, please, kind of
Hmm.
conversation.
Okay. I don't remember that, but I believe you.
Yeah,
I don't remember that
which
though.
is interesting.
Interesting. Well, yeah, I think hopefully we'll get more of them post
I know we need to see
Casa.
like I'm like what connection, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's kind of how I feel too.
Yeah.
Um then we have Sierra and Nick. Elan also had Sierra's name written down, so he is now single. But yeah, I think Sierra and Nick are right now, I think they're probably my strongest couple along with Shelly and Ace. Like I think the two of them, those two couples, I think to me right now are like the power couples that will probably make it to the end, barring any sort of like movie night revelation that breaks them up somehow.
Yeah. I think so too.
And then we have Taylor and Clark. Now, this was the dramatic one here because Alandria also had Taylor's name written down. Taylor had to decide between the two of them, and he chose Clark. And Amaya almost fainted, I think.
You know, the Villa girls, like, or the OG girls, whatever, like, they did not know what was going on with Taylor and Clark.
Yeah.
Clark was like, oh, he's too easy, like, falling for some Casa bombshell. Like, they didn't
Hmm.
understand that they were really forming a connection in Casa because they didn't see any of it. So
Right.
they were pissed.
I think it's good though that Alandria did see it because I think that hopefully like Alandria can kind of like explain to the girls like no they really did like talk a lot and have like because she even said like they're cute together at one
Yeah.
point. So I do think that it's good that she was able to see it because I
But the
think it
guys could
probably
also, vouch for him in that way, too.
yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
So I do think that her being there is probably good in terms of Clark not getting villainized in the same way that like most of the time Casa girls are when they form real connections with OG guys and then come back to the villa. Like I
Yeah.
think Alandra being able to see it for herself hopefully will alleviate some of that kind of like villain role being put on them.
Yeah, I hope so.
Well, there now at this point are six single islanders: JD, Elan, Zach C, Vanna, Coco, and Elandria. So everyone who was in the villa this past week has to decide on one boy to leave or to save, excuse me. Then everyone who was in Casa this week decides on one girl to save. So they decide on Elan and Elandria to save, and then the other four are sent home. So did either of those picks to save surprise you? What were your thoughts on that?
Well, those were my two favorites. Like, what are you going to do? They picked the
Yeah.
favorites. Like, good job.
Yeah, no, 100%. I was really happy with both of those choices.
Coco would have been
The
my third choice.
Coco, you said?
She would have been like my third choice.
Same.
If they could have saved three, I would have picked Coco also.
100%. Coco was the only one of those four that I was really sad to see go because I think that she really had potential to like to find something potentially, I think. And yeah, I really felt bad for her in particular, but yeah, totally agree. I think that if we had to only save two, one guy and one girl, I was happy it was Elan and Elandria. So that was basically it. That was our week here. Was there anything else that we left out? Any predictions for next week that you want to say here and put in the time capsule forever?
Oh, I didn't even think of predictions. I don't know. Who do you think the bombshell's going to be?
What do you mean? Oh,
You said
like a
if they have someone from a past season.
oh, hmm. I don't know. I mean, there's so many options.
Also,
It's usually someone from the most recent season, I feel like. So if I'm thinking someone from season 6 who is single, um,
who wasn't controversial.
yeah.
It's kind of hard. Maybe like Connor.
I feel like it's not going to be anyone that's on the be behind Beyond the Villa
Oh,
spinoff.
Beyond the Villa.
That would
Is
just
it
be my
everyone
guess.
on Beyond the Villa?
No, so it's like the main, pretty much every main like personality from last season, except for um Cordell is not full time on it, and Rob is not on there, and Rob's filming Traders right now, so it's not going to be him.
Okay.
But pretty much everyone else, maybe Nicole.
Yeah. Yeah, and maybe Nicole. But I don't know because she was controversial. That's why it's like Nicole or Daniela, maybe. Like,
Oh, could be a Casa girl. I could see that maybe, like
yeah,
a Casa girl that like maybe what was her name? The one who was with Cordell.
I forgot. I was gonna say like that girl.
Yeah. I liked her.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Because isn't it the Casa people who could come back as mom, or it could be anyone?
It could be anyone. Yeah, there's no rules for
The
that,
Casa
so
Boys last year made no impression on me.
no, no, not at all. So yeah, I could see it maybe being someone like that. But we will just have to
Nicole.
see.
Now my prediction is Nicole. If someone is gonna ask
That
me,
would be great.
go with Nicole.
That
Yeah.
would be great. I would like that. But yeah, so we have a lot to look forward to this week. I think we're getting movie night this week, if I'm not mistaken. So that's always really fun. A lot of people are in the villa right now. It's a large group in that villa, so we got to get rid of some of them. But for right now,
They
I'm
cut
enjoying
about
having a lot
four
of
of
them.
them. So
Yeah, yeah, but it's still more than we started with before Casas. So a lot more than we started with. So there's a lot of couples in there right now. I think there's 9 couples and 2 singles.
yeah.
So we have a lot to look forward to. But thank you guys so much for listening, and be sure to follow us on social media at Let's Chat Reality, and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. Mel, thank you so much for joining me today.
Of course. Anytime you need someone to fill in about Love Island USA, I'm here.
Great. Well,
Yeah.
definitely we will have to have you back, and we will certainly be back next week. Molly will be here, and we will be covering everything from week 5, our penultimate week of Love Island USA. So be sure to join us for that, and everyone have a great week. Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.